That night, no one could sleep. The lights were on in all the rooms. My little brother didn't understand anything, yet he still cried. My parents called all my friends, but no one knew where their disobedient daughter was wandering. They decided that if I didn't show up by morning, they would go to the police. The last thing I remember is how Jack and I had a big fight. Here's what happened: we were hanging out in a small group, and then we started arguing over some nonsense. Sarah seemed really angry, but she was only lashing out at Jack, and he's such a wimp, he gets aggressive at the slightest provocation. Anyway, he grabs some piece of metal, and then my memory gets hazy, hits, pain, the taste of blood. It's disgusting to even remember. I don't remember everything that happened before that day. But if only my parents. I just don't know how I got to my apartment. Maybe my legs brought me here out of habit. In the morning, my parents, as planned, went to the police, and I, naturally, followed them. While we walked, they were silent the whole way. I felt completely down. The weather was gloomy, puddles, cold, people walking somewhere with serious faces. Why is everyone so gray and boring? I remembered some joke from the internet and started telling it loudly, with expression. I burst into foolish laughter, snorting like a complete idiot. Suddenly, I remembered I was not alone on the street, but, looking at my parents' reaction, or rather the lack of it, I remembered that I was now invisible, at least to the living. But my little brother giggled. Only now did I notice he was looking at me. It seemed like he could see me. It's a shame he hasn't learned to speak yet. My parents were taken to the morgue with a couple of police officers. They said they found a girl my age at a dump. I don't think they could have thrown me out at a dump. Jack doesn't have such a limited imagination. No, his imagination is definitely limited, and my body was lying at the dump, so disfigured that I didn't recognize myself except for the identical clothes. Mom fainted, Dad's mouth dropped open, eyes bulged out, and he froze in that position. I think it was for a long time. My little brother, not noticing the mixture of organs with clothing, reached out his hands to me and smiled. I managed to hang on until the funeral, though it was very difficult. My parents were crying all the time. Until my death, I had never seen my father cry. It was very sad and lonely at home. It's a terrible feeling when no one can see you, hear you, or feel you, and it will be that way forever. Only my brother sees me, but he doesn't understand anything and takes all my words with a smile. I constantly feel like someone is calling me. I don't know what or where, but it seems like I can't stay here. Sometimes the call is very strong, pulling me somewhere. At those moments, my brother starts crying and calling my name, and then it lets me go. My parents were shocked. He hadn't even said a mom before this. At the cemetery, I wasn't the only dead person. There were many of us, but they were different, slow, silent, absolutely without emotions, and no one said hello. It was downright offensive. Only one old man greeted me. He stood by his grave, listening to the complaints of an old but still alive woman, whom I understood to be his wife. I also realized that I had hardly any friends during my life. At the funeral, aside from relatives, only a few people showed up, and they came with Lisa for company. By the way, she was with us on the day of the murder. She is a good friend, but it's impossible to deal with Jack's outbursts. Lisa bent over the coffin and whispered, "Forgive me for everything." "There's nothing to forgive you for." She quickly turned in my direction, but it seemed she didn't see anything interesting there. Then Lisa stepped aside and quietly started crying. I didn't manage to do much in my short life, though I had plans for the future. I wanted to move out of my parents' house as soon as possible, go to college, and do so many things. People, don't put things off for later, that later may never come. I've been living at Jack's place for several days now. He wasn't there for the first 2 days, but on the third day, he finally showed up. We've been together for almost a week now and are having a lot of fun. While my insane killer friend was wandering somewhere, I moved into his apartment. I've been here before, of course, but because of the quick exit from my body, I have memory lapses. I re-examined the apartment and remembered some things. I liked the kitchen the most. It's bright and spacious. Out of boredom, I started learning how to affect surrounding objects. At first, there were no results at all, but the next day, I managed to throw some objects that annoyed me the most. That's progress. When Jack returned, he found his apartment slightly altered, dishes, or what was left of them, books, clothes, shoes, underwear, and other stuff were neatly scattered around the rooms. Oh, and the fridge was tipped over, some cupboards too. Jack ran around the apartment and then called his girlfriend, Katie. Apparently, she had the keys. I think I remember Katie. I never liked her. She's very strange, dresses like an adult but acts like a child. To make this fool understand something, you had to explain elementary things several times. Jack cursed into the phone for a long time, but then calmed down and decided to let his girlfriend explain herself. Apparently, she still didn't understand anything, mumbling nonsense. From her mumbling, I understood that she missed Jack when he was away. She decided to go after him to Chicago, and only in Chicago remembered that she needed to go to Houston. Jack had a good laugh at this wonder in feathers. She didn't even know the address, yet she was traveling without knowing where to go. Katie suggested calling the police. Jack, of course, didn't do that. He's a smart guy, he knows he can't draw attention while the case of my murder is still open. At night, we slept together, or rather he slept like a baby, and I sat opposite him. At first, I just listened to how musically this cruel man snored. When he stopped, a deathly silence hung in the room. I have to admit, such silence scares me. I decided to talk to Jack. How can you kill a person, animal? But the animal didn't respond. I could be alive now, but you took everything from me. Who gave you that right? Do you even understand what it means to live? No, he didn't understand. Live? He never lived like normal people. You only messed up, drank, and messed up again. How much cruelty must you have to take someone's life? Hey, why aren't you listening to me? I couldn't resist and punched him in the nose. Jack jumped up, screamed, and turned on all the lights. Jack returned when it was already dawn. He had spent the night at a friend's. While he was gone, I hid all his money and cards. I also spilled red paint on the floor, like blood. I wanted to write a killer on the walls, but I couldn't write yet, and it wasn't interesting anyway. Jack was afraid to come back alone, so he brought a friend with a cute face. I didn't mind guests. They were both shocked by the trashed apartment but couldn't figure out who and how someone could have broken in. One suggested it was Alice, a former classmate, who could have secretly taken the keys from Katie and was now avenging my death. I thought she would send him away, but no, she agreed to go to my killer. Jack sat at the computer, and his friend, I think his name is Tom, turned on the TV. I went to Tom. Everything seemed normal. Tom looked at the screen, then at me, then at the remote. I didn't understand what was happening for a long time. Does he see me? And then it hit me, I was sitting there, brazenly changing channels. Tom was speechless. Scared, he looked so much like my little brother. I couldn't resist, hugged him, and kissed him on the head. He screamed and literally flew to the door. Jack didn't hear anything, his game was louder than Tom's screams. Unfortunately, Lisa quickly arrived. She entered through the door that Tom kindly left open. Why did you come, foolish girl? Jack was in a very bad mood, and Lisa had to endure first his cursing, then his beating. My friend was being beaten right in front of my eyes, and I couldn't do anything. I tried to grab something, but apparently, because of the panic, nothing worked. Lisa was much weaker than Jack. He threw her around the apartment while shouting threats. I finally managed to attack him with a blanket and pillows. Meanwhile, Lisa escaped. Jack went to the balcony to smoke, and I took his phone and started writing to him on social media. Unfortunately, he didn't check his messages that day. Jack walks around the apartment naked, thinking no one can see him. By evening, Katie showed up. They hugged, kissed, and all that. And then I showed up. Katie got scared immediately. Who's that? Jack looked at me, then at her. Are you kidding? He said quickly. What the hell is she doing here, and who are you even talking about? I started laughing. I wasn't sure if she saw me or if she was just hallucinating. I didn't know you were coming, so I'm standing here. She started screaming, scared to hit Jack even though she really wanted to, and left the apartment. I locked the apartment from the outside, threw the keys into a snowdrift. Jack won't be able to get out. Poor Jack, he doesn't even remember locking the door, he doesn't remember where the keys are, he can't even call anyone because he doesn't have a phone. I ran around the apartment all day with these screams. Jack's nerves were very strained, and so was the apartment. He took out his aggression on everything, and I helped him. At night he calmed down a bit and went online. There were many messages from Katie, but he didn't have time to read them, as he saw a message from me. "Hi, how are you? I'm great, hope to see you soon. I look at you every day, but you don't notice me. It's sad. But don't worry, I'll fix it soon. Your stupid Katie left you alone with me, that's cruel. Don't you think? Jack can't get out of his apartment. Turn around." He turned around. Oh, man, what a face he had. I've never seen anything like it. It seemed like he would die right then. Again, hysteria. Jack locked himself in the room. Yeah, that really helped. I decided to go to the kitchen for a while, let him calm down. I went to my social media page, started looking at photos where I was alive, and remembered friends, family, life. I probably would have cried if I could. I put on Jack's bathrobe with a hood and went into his room. I was completely out of control. Jack attacked with a knife. Poor bathrobe, seriously, he tore a good thing. I sat at his computer and started writing a confession to the murder. Everything was in detail, with his rough words. In general, you couldn't find fault with it. The printer printed about 30 copies of such confessions, for reliability. Enraged, Jack looked like a dying man in a psychiatric hospital. I punched him several times for good measure, threw pillows, and went outside. Naturally, I didn't forget to unlock the apartment, otherwise, they might say he didn't kill himself. When I came down from the 5th floor, dead Jack was already lying on the frozen road.